Few aspects of school life are as controversial as sex education. Starting with, does it even belong in school? New Zealand still has an abysmal teen pregnancy rate, and the stats on sexually transmitted diseases are pretty depressing as well. So what, if anything, are our kids learning? Here's Lisa Glass.
We must take a responsible and adult attitude on sex. Within the marriage framework, it's perfectly proper.
Schools used to treat sex education as a lot more black and white. These days they're obliged to teach sexuality. But what does that mean?
We need to understand that sexuality is so much broader than just sexual intercourse, and within the sexuality education curriculum, we're looking at a really holistic view of sexuality, so relationships relating to one another, how exactly the body works.
Rachel Hansen runs seminars on sexuality education and works with schools. It's compulsory for some sort of education to be offered, but it leaves a wide margin for schools to determine, in consultation with the communities they serve, what they're going to teach.
It's important that parents within the community have a say in what is being taught. It's also really important that the teachers who are teaching it have a certain amount of flexibility with how they teach the program based on their experience, their level of comfort with the material, and also with the students in their classes.
The Education Review Office does evaluate the teaching of sexuality education, but their last report came out in 2007 and they have no immediate plans for a new one. That report said many students were being let down by the quality of teaching, and 2/3 of schools needed to lift their game.
In the coming weeks we'll be carrying on with sexuality.
And while it's been compulsory for more than a decade for schools to provide sexuality education, it's not compulsory for students to take it. Parents are able to opt out on behalf of their kids.
I say to parents that if your child is not getting their sexuality education from you and they're not getting quality sexuality education from school, then they're going to be receiving that from the media.
I wish all parents would talk to young people more often, but what we're finding a lot of the time is young people feel it's quite difficult to talk to the parents, or they're shut down.
Transmission rates of sexual diseases are increasing. Our teen pregnancy rate is among the highest in the world, and young people are exposed to an increasingly sexualised environment. That's why organisations like Auckland Sexual Health are working on alternative ways for students to learn. They run a peer tutoring program which helps students educate each other on safe and healthy practices.
There's a lot of misinformation out there, and if young people can be teaching their peers, the right information, then it sort of spreads a lot easier than the top-down approach, which we've all come to know through just teachers alone. They can stop the misinformation just, out in the schoolyard kind of thing.
We've changed markedly from the days when kids learned about the mechanics, but none of the emotions. But are we serving students well enough and consistently enough in 2012?
Joining me now is Dr. Miriam Grossman, a psychiatrist from the States who writes about the harm of sex education. She's been brought out here by Family First. And from Auckland, sex education expert Dr. Katie Fitzpatrick. Dr. Grossman, do you believe there should be sex education for a start? Is there a place for it?
Of course there is. I believe the best place for it, of course, is in the home, ideally. But in some homes that's not possible, and it should be available at school for those families that wish so.
You don't think we're doing well in our schools, though?
I believe there are some very serious problems, yes.
What sort of problems?
I'm most concerned about the medical information that's lacking. When I go through the websites that are recommended, for example, by Family Planning Association, and I look at their pamphlets, I don't see what I would call life-saving information, for example, about sexual behaviors, cancers. If I'm permitted to say, we know now that oral sex is associated with throat cancer. I do not see that anywhere in the material that's been written for your young people.
But presumably then that is a problem for older people as well. It's not just an issue for young. It's those sort of things. If there's a problem with something like that, that's an issue for...
Well, it should be yes, it's an issue for everyone. But if you're introducing young people to sexual behaviours, and many of these sites are very graphic and encouraging and celebrating these high-risk behaviours, you need to also inform them of the risk.
Dr. Katie Fitzpatrick, do you have concerns about our sex education here?
I only have concerns that I don't think we have enough sexuality education, and I use the word sexuality education, not sex education. I think sex education is part of it, but sexuality is much broader. In New Zealand we have a curriculum, so Dr. Grossman talks about websites. That's fine, websites are out there, they're everywhere internationally, we can't control those. But in New Zealand we have a mandated curriculum in health and physical education. We have guidelines for sexuality education put out by the Ministry of Education and other supportive resources. So sexuality education is much broader. It's about human relationships, it's about diversity, it's about learning assertive behaviours, it's about a range of information, not just about disease.
Dr. Grossman, is it about education or is it about morality, or can you separate the two?
Well, first, if I could respond for 1 minute, we certainly can control what's on these websites. These websites are run by organizations that are government funded. Family Planning Association is government funded. When they are sending young people to sites like The Word or Curious or Get It On, certainly you can control what's on there. So that's one thing. Can this be separated from morality? Yes, it can certainly be separated from morality. It's a medical issue. These are medical issues. We need to be straight about them, and we need to tell the truth.
But is it just medical issues? I mean, just reading some of the articles about you, I mean, some of the concerns you have is that it's opening up. The people are not waiting, if you like, that young people are being encouraged into sexual behaviour before they are ready. And you as a psychiatrist are saying before they are mentally ready as well.
Well, and physically ready. We know, for example, that young girls are vulnerable to sexually transmitted infections because their cervix is immature.
But this is not a problem that's just cropped up recently, is it? I mean, this has been going on for years and years and years, that young people...
But why don't our kids know? Why don't our young women know this? Why aren't they being told?
Why aren't they? Should they be told? Are we failing them somehow?
Yeah, I think we are. I think young women do need a range of information, and that's what good sexuality education is. It's actually educating young people, allowing them to discuss things in an open, safe environment that, with access to information from a range of sources and a critical approach to the media, to websites, so that young people can have quality information. That is the whole purpose of sexuality ed. In New Zealand, one of the aims of sexuality in our curriculum is to delay sexual behaviour, so that young people actually are fully informed, are thinking about the nature of relationships, etc.
All right, let me just respond to that. The goal of delaying sexual relationships, of course, is the medical goal that we want to have. But please, parents, go take a look at Family Planning Association. There's a pamphlet specifically that's called Your Choice. Young people are not being told to delay sexual behavior. They're being told it's up to you. You decide. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
What is the problem with that from your point of view?
The problem is that it's a high-risk behavior to be sexually active during the teen years with multiple partners is high risk. You're going to get an infection. There'll
be parents at home sitting going, yes, look, we love what you're saying. In an ideal world, this would be great. But the simple fact of the matter is that kids are more highly sexualised than they were years ago, that people are engaging probably a lot earlier. That just affects a life. You can't turn back the clock.
Well, I would disagree. I think the culture is very sexualized, but certainly biologically we're the same as we were 100 years ago and 200 years ago. Because the culture is so sexual and because the entertainment industry is pushing this at us is all the more reason why educators and physicians and nurses have to be giving the opposite message.
Are we encouraging that opposite message, Dr. Fitzpatrick? Are we encouraging young people to experiment? It's your choice, do what you like?
No, No, but choice is a key factor. And I don't know when the last time you spent some time with some teenagers was, but if you tell them what to do and give them the facts and the rules, then there's not actually necessarily that much chance that they're going to go and follow those rules. All health promotion experts know this.
Is there any point in having it then?
Yes, it is important, but we don't give young people rules. We access a lot of information. We give them the skills to make good decisions, to reflect on their behaviours. We're not interested in controlling their behaviours. That's not educationally sound.
If I may, if you look at any other health field, if you look at diet, exercise, well, you're an expert in these things. Tanning salons, smoking, we say, don't do this and do this. We present an ideal to young people.
And it doesn't work.
They don't see sex as a bad thing, though.
No,
they don't see it like smoking or over tanning. That young people do not see sex as a bad thing.
Well, they shouldn't. The sexual urge is healthy and wonderful. It's when teens act on that urge that it's not healthy.
Well, I'm sure we're going to get lots of it. Dr. Miriam Grossman, thank you for your time tonight, and Dr. Katie Fitzpatrick. Appreciate you coming in too.